We will call the Burlington City Council February 18th, 2014 meeting to order. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome all of you here, and hopefully you will return. Also, I'd like to ask that you, if you have any electronic devices at this time, you will turn them off. This time we ask Councilmember Jim Ball for tonight's invitation.
Let's pray. Dear Father, we thank you again for the opportunity to come before you and conduct the business on behalf of the citizens of Burlington. Father, we're especially thankful for the protection during the recent storm and the many employees that worked hard to keep our roads and streets clean. Father, we're so thankful for those that prepare our work for us and prepare the dedicated hours that are necessary to keep us informed on the aspects of our city. We ask that you continue to bless the city of Burlington, give this council knowledge and wisdom from above so that we may do and act accordingly. In your name we pray. Amen.
Next item on the agenda is a proclamation of the 100th anniversary of the Alamance County Area Chamber of Commerce. This time we recognize Cindy Montgomery, Chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, Ms. Montgomery.
Thank you.
We'll read this proclamation and present it to you. Proclamation proclaiming Monday, April 14th, 2014 as 100th anniversary of the Alamance County Area Chamber of Commerce in the city of Burlington. Whereas April 14th, 2014 marks the 100th anniversary of the Alamance County Area Chamber of Commerce, whose mission is enhancing the welfare of business and promoting and stimulating economic vitality in the Alamance County area for the benefit of its members and the community. And whereas for 100 years the Alamance County Area Chamber of Commerce has served as a membership-based, volunteer-led, nonprofit community and economic development organization, providing a wealth of resources and support for new and existing businesses, visitors and tourists, current and relocating residents to the area, and the general public. And whereas for 100 years the Alamance County Area Chamber of Commerce has offered its members an avenue for networking with other businesses, marketing their services and products, and for remaining informed on issues and trends impacting businesses. And whereas for 100 years the Alamance County Area Chamber of Commerce has worked to develop and market the county as a site for new and expanding industries, providing economic opportunities for businesses and citizens alike. Whereas the Convention and Visitors Bureau promotes economic development through tourism, marketing Alamance County to prospective visitors by celebrating history, nature, competition, and much more. And whereas the Alamance County Area Chamber of Commerce has broadened its mission by providing ongoing business and education partnerships to enhance the workforce and prepare students to be informed and involved leaders in our community. Now therefore, I, Ronnie K. Wall, Mayor of the City of Burlington, do hereby proclaim Monday, April 14, 2014 as the 100th anniversary of the Alamance County Area Chamber of Commerce in the city of Burlington.
Thank you very much. It's a big year for us.
Feel free to say something if you like, Ms. Montgomery.
I just wanted to say this is a special year for us. It's 100 years, and we've got a lot of things going on. Hope you'll participate in it, and thank you. We will be giving this to our board and to our past chairs on April the 14th. We're going to have a celebration, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the Code of Ethics. This time we recognize City Clerk Renee Ward. Ms. Ward.
Members of council, it's my responsibility to remind you of your duty to avoid conflicts of interest in matters that are before us. At this time, I ask if there are any potential conflicts concerning tonight's agenda.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes, February 4th, 2014, City Council meeting.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion to second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Adoption of the agenda.
Move to adopt the agenda as written. Second.
Got a motion to second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda. These items are typically non-controversial. If anyone has any questions about the following items, please let us know. Item 1A, to approve a traffic commission recommendation for no parking in the downtown hours that exist between Maple Avenue and Davis Street, running parallel to Main Street and Spring Street.
Mayor, if we could, I'd like to come to my knowledge that there's a couple of individuals that may want to have a say-so on this matter, so if we could remove it from the consent agenda for discussion, I'd appreciate that.
Does that need to be a motion?
Yes,
Okay.
I would make that motion.
Okay. Just second that, Mayor.
Yeah.
Got a motion, second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Item 1B, to appoint Todd Neese to the Burlington Fire Department Relief Fund Board for a 2-year term. C, to award the 2013-2014 annual audit contract in the amount of $69,000 with Stout Stewart, McGowan & King, LLP, to authorize the Mayor and Finance Director to execute the contracts. D, budget amendment 2013-35, Conference Carolina Spring Sports Festival, that is spelled out in your agenda. Got a motion and second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? This time I read item 1A again, to approve a traffic commission recommendation for no parking in the downtown alley that exists between Maple Avenue and Davis Street, running parallel to Main Street in Spring Street. This time I recognize Chris Cloud to basically give the council a little bit of history before we move on.
Oh, absolutely. Good evening, everyone. I'd also like to say that Captain Slaughter and Mr. Bateman was a big help in this endeavor. This alley has been around for many decades, and as such, it's really been very useful for the loading and unloading of goods from LabCorp, from the other buildings that are there, and it's functioned that way well for years. There have been some no parking signs placed on the end of it just to keep vehicles from blocking both those ends. Well, since the new parking plan got passed last year, there have been some vehicles that have been there parking permanently, so they were blocking parts of the alley, causing some problems. So the police department wanted to push forward some no parking across this alley. Could we just push forward with that? We went to go look, and there was nothing in the ordinance written to that. So let's go through the proper channels and go through Traffic Commission and Council to get that passed. We did do that. We took it through Commission. The alley actually has something, being a public alley, and it's been a public use alley for many years, well over 21 years. Mr. Bateman can speak to this. The city has what's called a prescriptive easement over this property. As such, they do have the right to regulate it. We took this through the Traffic Commission. It passed by a vote of 4-3, but there still may be some citizens here who would like to discuss that, possible property owners that want to discuss, again, why that might be the case.
What was the feedback from the commission? 4-3 vote, meaning what?
Well, 4 were in favor of having this regulated, the other 3 were not. Where it comes from is just some questions from some of the members about some of the property lines from some of these buildings encompass the alley. So they were curious about, can property owners, can there be regulation of parking on property owners' own property? That's where some of the questions came from the commission. That's where I talked with Mr. Bateman, and this prescriptive easement was established.
Questions from council to Mr. Cloud? Mr. Bateman, you want to?
I could speak to that just for a moment. The alley has been in continuous use as a public alleyway for, I know of at least 50 years, and probably closer to 80 or 90 years. Part of it is platted as an alleyway. Part of it has deed descriptions that incorporate, and this was the concept that some members of the Traffic Commission found difficult to comprehend, that property lines could be burdened by an easement. The easement has always been there, and sometimes property lines go out and include the fee simple under the easement, which is quite common, streets, highways, sidewalks, many places. But several members of the Traffic Commission found that concept hard to grasp and did not feel it appropriate. We have, in fact, been regulating parking in that area for a number of years. When we went to, the issue was raised by 1 or 2 property owners on the alleyway. We went back to research to make sure that if we enforced it, that we could go back to the code and find in our log that we maintain, where the council has authorized traffic regulations that it would be listed. We could not find it, so we thought the most appropriate thing to do was go back through the process so we could formally enter it into the logbooks.
Questions for Mr. Bateman from council? Anything else you want to add?
Oh, no, sir, that's it for now.
So it's our understanding there's some citizens here that would like to speak, excuse me, that would like to speak on this topic. If you would come forward, state your name and address.
I'm Lynn Moser. We live at 610 Fountain Place, and I've just purchased in December 424 South Main Street. And I'm sorry, we didn't get a notice about it, and it may just be because we have just bought this property. We didn't get a notice before the Traffic Commission made their ruling, and had a letter when we got back from vacation. One of the reasons that I bought that building for my business is because it has a back entrance. In fact, the entrance that was existing, the step was really too high for me, up and down, that we knew we could not put steps out into the alleyway. And so we've gone to the expense of having a masonry, cut through the masonry to have another door so it's at grade. So my concern, I don't want it for permanent parking, but I really need it for my business. I really need it as a loading zone. In fact, I would hate for it to be permanent parking on anybody's property back there, because then it would prevent me from being able to go and load and unload.
So when you start talking about loading zone, what sort of time constraints?
Well, what we had, Captain Slaughter and I talked about this after men made us aware of her concerns, and we don't want to block her from using her alleyway to load and unload. That's the purpose of having the alley, so people have access to the rear of their buildings and can bring stuff in, load and unload. What we propose to do, Chad, you correct me if I'm wrong, is sign it, no parking, and underneath that say loading and unloading allowed. And typically, we use about a 15-minute time.
Would you have one area for the loading and unloading?
It's all the way through the alley.
So anybody
Anybody
has access
has access
to the alley, the rights to
Right.
park for loading and unloading.
Right. All we want to do is make sure that we don't have permanent parking in there that prevents anybody from using it.
Any questions from the council?
Yeah, I know. Is your property adjacent to the Lapwell building there on Davis?
We're right in the middle of the block. Oh, so do you mean the park that they park in, on Spring Street?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, we're directly behind that.
Driveway goes right.
Mm-hmm. It does.
I know there's been an issue with previous owners there with that property between Lapwell and the property owners there, about who has access to get into the alley, off Main Street or, not Main Street, Davis Street and Bennett Street. From that end. It's not, I don't think I know it's a complete drive-through, but I know that there were some issues there with that, having access coming in behind the Lapwell building there too.
Where is this in reference to the green area that Labcorp is right now?
My space is right. The property that I own, and I'm one of the people that owns the, back to the other building, and I understand about the easement, but we really are directly behind that green space.
Any other questions for Ms. Moser? Thank you,
Okay.
Ms. Moser.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak?
So this item number 1 really means to state that it's for no parking in the alley, subject to loading zone.
Restrictions.
Yes.
Is that right, Mr. Bailey?
Yeah, we'll put as long as I know the council's intent is to allow loading and unloading, so we'll note that in the record books, the log books.
Right.
The loading and unloading is permitted in the full length of the alleyway.
And that should satisfy the property owners on those.
Anybody else? You heard Mr. Mayor?
that asked that question.
Then I make a motion that's what we do. Approve for no parking, subject to loading zone.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the public hearing 2. A public hearing has been scheduled to receive citizen comment on area housing and neighborhood improvement needs and proposed activities for fiscal year 2014-15 community development programs. This time we recognize Ms. Taylor. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. At your last council meeting, you approved tonight as a public hearing to receive comments on community and housing development needs for the upcoming fiscal year. Back in October, we sent out a request for proposals to various nonprofits in the community, and we received back several responses. From Allied Churches, they have requested a bathroom renovation of their existing bathroom facility, and then the construction of a new bathroom in the facility to serve specifically women and children on that side of their facility, on their dorm side of women and children. They've also requested a project to put up a permanent awning so that they can access, when people are there for the food pantry, they have a covering from the weather, since they are now the main spot of the food pantry location in the county due to the closing of Loaves and Fishes. We also received a request from Alamance County Library to continue funding at the North Park Library for $10,000. Alamance County Community Services requested funding, and again, to participate as our CHODO, which is our Community Housing Development Organization, for our home program. They have since been approved by the City of Greensboro through our consortium to continue that activity with our partnership with them. The city also received a request from Burlington Development Corporation, which is the nonprofit entity of Burlington Housing Authority, to provide a 20% cash match for their HOPE and their STEPS program. Their HOPE program is a permanent housing program for chronically homeless individuals, and their STEPS program is a one-year transitional housing program for disabled homeless families. They've requested $19,903 to continue that program in our community with those funds from CDBG budget. We have not yet received what our allocation is going to be for the upcoming year. We expect to receive that sometime in March, and that will be for both our CDBG program and our home program. But we've been told to kind of work off the numbers that we had last year to develop our budget for the upcoming year.
Any questions, Mr. Todd?
The amount from allied churches I didn't hear.
Well, we've had to do, they didn't request a specific amount. We've had some in-house estimates done, and we're still working on those. It's going to be around the $55,000 mark for the renovation of the existing bathroom and then the new bathroom and the awning. So we're still trying to finalize those numbers.
Any other comments? This is a public hearing. Anyone decide that would like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm Cap Paylor with the North Carolina Construction Training Partnership. Our activity, training low-income people and also working on affordable housing in the process. We train people here and work in conjunction with community development and some of the other departments. And our partner is the NC Housing Finance Agency, and they match the money dollar for dollar, and every indication is that they're willing to do that again.
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Question? Thank you, sir. Anyone else would decide that would like to speak?
Good evening. I'm Nikki Ratliff with Burlington Development Corporation, and we would just like your support in continuing this vital program in our public housing agency as we serve chronically homeless individuals and homeless families as they transition from homelessness to permanent housing, affordable housing here in Alamance County in the Burlington city limits. To date, we have assisted a total of 9 chronically homeless individuals and 12 homeless families. We were awarded this money in 2007 and have put up our own funds for cash match when the other funding sources dried up from the LME and from United Way, and so we would really appreciate the council's support.
Questions for Ms. Wright?
Thank you.
Anyone else on this side that would like to speak? Anyone on this side that would like to speak?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Councilman. I'm MJ Wilkerson, the Director of Alamance County Public Libraries, and I mostly want to say thank you for your support of North Park through this grant. Last year, we had a grand total circulation at North Park of 11,072 items checked out, and we had 4,856 people come to the library last year. We have a new head of youth services that was out at North Park yesterday and will be there tomorrow to do one of the Head Start programs, and he is so excited about the possibilities and getting even more folks in. So the support that's given to us via the grant is huge, and we cannot say thank you enough, and that's what keeps it up and running for us. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else on this side that would like to speak?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Wendy Covington. I'm with the Alamance County Community Services Agency. I want to thank you all for your support in our efforts at the Apple Tree Village subdivision. Alamance County Community Services Agency has been recognized as a charter agency since 1998, and since then we have completed the Westmoreland subdivision, which was completed in 2001. We are currently developing new homes at the Apple Tree Village subdivision. We do plan to construct new homes this year. Hopefully we'll be able to qualify 2 families, and those homes should be completed sometime between now and this fall. We currently have 3 counselors available at the agency who are certified to do pre-homeownership counseling and also post-ownership counseling as well. I would have to admit that all of our homes that we have constructed so far are occupied by the original buyers since 1998, so we feel that that is a great success for our agency. So again, we thank you all for your support, and we look forward to partnering with you again in developing affordable new homes for citizens of Alamance County.
Anyone else that'd like to speak?
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Kim Crawford. I'm the Executive Director of Allied Churches, and on behalf of Allied Churches, I would like to ask for your support for our request for CDBG funding. As you know, Allied Churches stepped up about 6 months ago. We are now the largest shelter of its kind in the county, the largest soup kitchen of its kind in the county, and the largest food pantry of its kind in the county. Back in September, we did not anticipate the influx of volume that would be coming into our building. The reality is we have about 60 to 70 people who call Allied Churches home. With the addition of second meal in the soup kitchen Monday through Friday and with the food pantry, we literally have brought on hundreds of different people onto our property. In order for us to meet the needs of the people that need shelter and food, we feel that it is a necessity to repair our bathrooms and then also give people that are coming for food shelter from the elements. So we could really use your support in that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak on this side?
Move to close the public hearing.
Got a motion second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No other action needed on that topic. Item 3, a public hearing is scheduled to consider an application to rezone from I-10 Planned Industrial Residential District to CI Conditional Industrial District for the use of indoor automobile sales. The property is located at 2008 Anthony Road and shown in Alamance County Tax Map 12-58-68. This time we recognize Ms. Nelson. Ms. Nelson, welcome.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to try to pull up those items here. Let's see, this is... This is the map that's in your agenda packet. When this item came up before the Planning and Zoning Commission, they unanimously recommended approval of the request. Staff had also recommended approval to them. The Commission found that the zoning changes as requested would not adversely affect the adjoining property and would be in keeping with the land use planning that's going on in the area at this time, and that it's consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. It has some use and development conditions attached to it that are in your packet. I can go over those if you like.
Questions for Ms. Nelson?
This is going to be used for indoor auto sales.
This is the White Plum Road and Anthony. No.
There it is. That was the incorrect map previously. That's the correct map.
Is the petitioner here? Yes, sir. Can you come forward, please, and state your name?
Mr. Mayor, City Council, my name's Hank Carpenter, and I'm just planning on doing indoor car sales. I've been with an exotic car dealer for 10 years. I'm going to do my own thing now, mostly high-end cars, Porsche, Ferrari, Maserati, Aston Martin, need indoor facility, all sales indoors, no service. That's it.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else Ms. Nelson would need to know?
No, sir.
This was approved by your council?
Yes, it was approved by staff and planning and zoning, or recommended for approval.
Okay. Any questions? Motion, this is a public hearing. Anyone on this side that would like to speak? Anyone on this side that would like to speak?
Make a motion that we close the public hearing.
We have a motion second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Mayor, make a motion that we approve the conditional rezoning as recommended by staff. As written.
We have a motion second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
I also make a motion that we approve the statement of consistency where the city council finds that the above amendment is consistent with the city of Burlington's comprehensive land use plan, and that this action is reasonable and in the public interest, and that the amendment is compatible with the existing land uses and will provide for the adaptive reuse of the property being rezoned.
We have a motion second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Item number 4, public hearing has been scheduled to consider an application to rezone from R9 residential district to MF/A multifamily district. The property is located on the north side of Avon Avenue, shown on Alamance County Tax Map 39-150-313. Recognize Ms. Amy Nelson. Ms. Nelson.
Thank you. This is another one where the staff recommended approval of the request, and the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval as well. They decided that it was consistent with the comprehensive land use plan.
Petitioner here.
Yes, sir, Mr. Rankin. Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Steve Morrison. I live at 1504 Brendan Shire Court in Greensboro.
Would you like to describe this or anything you need to say to follow up?
It is currently zoned, a duplex would be, you could build a duplex there now. We're wanting to build a quadruplex, no larger footprint, just go up.
Any questions from
That's a good question. The only thing on it now is just some small trees, isn't it?
That's correct, sir.
It really needs to be cleaned up.
We intend to do that, sir.
I mean, that'll be good.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Since the public hearing, anyone on this side that would like to speak? Anyone on this side that would like to speak?
Second.
Got a motion second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Will be approved the rezoning.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
That we approve the statement of consistency. The city council finds that the above amendment is consistent with the city of Burlington's comprehensive land use plan, and that this action is reasonable and in the public interest, and that this amendment is compatible with the existing land uses and will provide for the adaptive reuse of property being rezoned.
Got a motion second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Morrison. Item number 5, public hearing is scheduled to consider an application to rezone from I-1 Planned Industrial District to I-1A Planned Industrial Residential District. Property located at 3344 Almond Road, is shown on tax map 12-3-1. This time we recognize Ms. Nelson.
Thank you. This case was also recommended for approval by staff, and the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously approved the recommendation. The commission found that the request was consistent with the comprehensive land use plan, and just in case there's any question, the airport is very close by, and they were consulted, and they had no issues with this rezoning.
I've got a question, Mayor. Just looking at this, it just takes a part right out of the middle of that I-1A. Typically, and I'm not asking what's going there, typically when you ask for zoning, you're asking for more permitted uses. What's the difference between I-1A and I-1A residential? And I guess my thinking would be that I-1A, you'd be permitted the same or more than you would an I-1A residential. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, the residential component in the industrial areas is to allow for existing uses to continue if someone wants to keep their house instead of converting to industrial, but at some point in the future, they or their heirs would likely convert. But this just allows that use to continue amongst industrial. And this is kind of an unusual case because the property owner, his home is currently in a floodplain. And you can see it on this aerial photo. There is only a small portion here that's outside the floodplain, and what he wants to do is rebuild his house in this location so it does not flood.
Okay, but under I-1A now, you could not rebuild, right? If you go to I-1A residential, you could, and, you know.
Yes,
that- okay.
right.
So
So
in
that,
other words,
he's,
you've got a grandfather use in there right now, but you're trying to expand upon the use.
right.
Yeah,
I mean, he's
guess-
trying to shift the location.
I guess the question would be, I mean, what does it do to the integrity, the overall integrity of the I-1A? In other words, I don't,
Yeah,
I mean, obviously it was done, you know, done I-1A for purpose, for
Right.
reserve,
Right,
you know, for industrial.
exactly. And I agree with that, but at the same time, this is the use that the gentleman wanted to make of his property, just to try and protect the residential component that he has existing at this time.
Well, even then, in the zoning code, you know, I-1A residential says to allow for interim residential use, you know. And of course, interim could be 20, 30, 40 years, I guess.
Right.
That's my question, thank you.
Are you saying that the rest of this property is in a floodplain?
Yes, sir.
So therefore, it's not subject to being developed anyway?
Correct.
Except for high ground, it's in that corner.
Right here.
Any other questions for Ms. Nelson?
Do we know how much elevation?
I'm not sure what the elevation is right there.
So this is a public hearing. Anyone on this side that would like to speak? Anyone else on this side that would like to speak? Petitioner?
Close the public hearing. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Will we approve the design? I second that.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Also, make a motion to approve the statement of consistency. The city council finds that the above amendments consistent with the city of Burlington comprehensive land use plan. This action is reasonable in the public interest in that the amendment is compatible with existing land uses and will provide for the adaptive reuse of property and rezone.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? New business 6, city council consider awarding a contract in the amount of $849,904.16 to Raleigh Paving Incorporated for the 2014 street resurfacing project. This time, we recognize Mr. Lane Brew. Mr. Brew, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. On February 6th, Engineering Department received 3 bids for the 2014 resurfacing contract, which consisted of 6.15 miles of resurfacing. The apparent low bidder is Riley Paving Incorporated with a low bid of $849,904.16. The engineer's estimate for the work was $946,971. So you can see that the bid come in considerably less than our projections. This map depicts those streets that are proposed for resurfacing, those in red, with, as you can see, an even distribution across the city. These streets were determined by evaluating the current pavement condition rating of all the streets in our network, and this should knock out those streets with a rating of 40 or below in this resurfacing.
So prior to the scraping we did?
That's correct. The contract does have a 100% extension clause, which means that if council elects to provide funding next year, in next year's budget for resurfacing, we can extend in July for another $849,000 in resurfacing funds.
That was designed for scraping too.
Riley has been a competent contractor in the past, doing work for the city some 5 years ago, and staff does recommend the award of the contract to Riley Paving in the amount of $849,904.16.
How many miles did you say that was?
6.15.
Could we come back next year with 6.15 with the same price?
We hope so. Well, we should. We're going to extend under the same bid item.
I'd make a motion that we award a contract to Riley Paving as being a low bidder.
The motion second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item number 7, City Council consider awarding a contract for comprehensive plan consultation to Ratio Architects Incorporated, the amount of $73,500. Funding sources, $20,000 from the North Carolina Community Transformation Grant Project, $25,000 currently budgeted. The City Council will also consider approving budget amendment 2014-36 in the amount of $28,500 for design services. I'll spell that in your agenda. And Ms. Nelson,
Thank you. As the mayor just read, I'm here to request that you consider awarding a contract to provide plan writing services for the Destination Burlington Comprehensive Plan and to adopt the associated budget amendment. After several discussions with council last year, the staff sent out an RFP for plan writing services as well as public outreach, and we were hoping to get a decent response from that RFP, and we got a fairly good response. I think we had 6 submissions, and we established a selection team from staff to go over these submissions. And the team members were David Beal, Shauna Tillery, David Schofter, and myself from the planning department, along with Nolan Kirkman and Ann Morris from the downtown organization. The 6 submittals were ranked by the team using the following criteria. Number 1, work in close cooperation with city staff, which saves the city money because we will be assisting them quite heavily in this process. And that was worth 15 points. Number 2, understand area economic, environmental, and geographic conditions, 15 points. Number 3, experience, 30 points. Number 4, project design, 20 points. And number 5 is outcomes with 20 points. The 2 most closely ranked firms were invited to an interview, and we used additional city staff at that interview because they have different areas of expertise that were applicable here. Andrew Shore, GIS, Michael Lane, Stormwater, Mike Nunn, Transportation, and Joey Lee, Zoning. The results were still very close after that, so we asked the 2 different firms to submit copies of previous plans that they had written. Once that was reviewed, the team voted Ratio Architects Incorporated from Raleigh as the best fit for our city. Their plans were very clear and well-written. One of their sub-consultants has expertise in economic development. Their references were outstanding, and the cost was a bargain, a tremendous bargain for a plan of this type. And the selection team is unanimous in recommending that the contract for Burlington's comprehensive plan be awarded to Ratio Architects Incorporated. Provided that you approve this contract, the public kickoff is projected to be in May of this year, and it is hoped that the project will conclude by the spring of next year.
questions for Ms. Nelson?
Make a motion that we award the contract of the comprehensive plan as recommended by staff based on their criteria. And the budget amendment of $28,500.
A motion second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item will be a very brief staff report. Mr. Owen.
Members of council, as you were made aware yesterday, staff appeared before an environmental review committee of state legislature from the senators and representatives concerning the sewer break at the East Plant. We were sort of shared the stage with Duke Energy. This is a much more in-depth issue than we had to bring to the table. It was a meeting that actually I thought was well prepared for. I will say Michael Lane and Bob Patterson did a wonderful job putting information together. It was good questions by the legislators. Of course, the press was there. Obviously, you had some environmental support that was there with some interesting comments. But I thought overall it was a good exchange of information. We laid out what happened. We laid out why we thought it happened after continuing 2 or 3 weeks looking at this process. We laid out what we need to do to fix the immediate problem and also address the long-term issue in reference to the Hall River Interceptor line, which we noticed there. And I think it was well received. We had, again, really an interesting comments made by a number of the legislators.
Any feedback from the committee in reference to potential fines or anything like that?
That subject came up. The fines are not substantial, but actually one of the representatives questioned whether there should be any fines by Diener anyway, since you're fining organizations who were about to invest their money. But what became interesting was in this particular subcommittee was, and this is a challenge for the council, I'm not so sure that even people realize the magnitude of the responsibility that we have in terms of the water and sewer system. It became obvious that a number of state representatives didn't realize how it operated, and in a sense I mean by that in terms of funded, because we had questions about state money. Well, yeah, there's been no state money for a long time. And then we had comments made there should be state money, and it became obvious that while some of the members on that committee had local government ties, and Charles was there, you could tell who truly understood, and ones who maybe, when we started talking about the amount of money that we were investing in reference to Jordan Lake and then to line replacements, I think it, in some ways, it may have overwhelmed them a little, because what is out there in terms of investment, and this investment is being made by the local governments. And Charles, you may want to add to that, and Bob, but that's kind of the impression I got as we ended that 90-minute session up, or 80-minute session, whatever it was. Charles, what do you think?
Harold did a great job, and everybody did. It was well presented and well received, I thought, by the committee. And some of you probably saw it on the internet or on television. The committee seemed more concerned, I thought, about do we have programs in place to try to anticipate high-risk areas, which was a legitimate area of concern, and I think that was the most pointed discussions were held about that. None critical of our efforts at all. So I certainly concur with Harold's assessment. We were well received.
I will tell you, Diener started that session off, and Diener worked great with us in this process. They stepped up, and obviously a lot of the concern in the press is about the press notification. They were very honest and told the committee what they told us to do, and were very upfront with that. So again, that was no one trying to. It was a very difficult situation, and we went through the process. We went through the timing. We went through the weather conditions. And I'm not so sure, and Michael did a wonderful job, and I think it really helped us come in with you guys at the work session with a map showing this thing and laying it out, the complexity of what we're trying to accomplish here. And the gentleman from Diener, Tom Reeder, did a nice job also with that, because this is a complex issue. From what, I think it was understood as best as we could get there.
I want to tell you something. I watched this on, we had it sent to us. I want to just say a couple of things. One, after having watched the whole presentation regarding the city of Burlington and then Duke Howard's presentation, I was impressed because our staff, Harold did a wonderful job. Michael Lane, I think, he comes across, he looks like a kid. He looks like a kid who's just wandered into the, but he was transparent, up front, giving information to these folks. They were listening. And I want to comment about one thing. One of the representatives said, I know that this is probably not part of your normal job routine. Well, you know something? Think about the number of times that Michael Lane has appeared before this city council at work sessions and given presentations. It is part of his work, and Harold does that. I think he trains folks, trains all of our department heads, and I think it was very apparent that Michael Lane knew what he was talking about, and he gave great information. I was actually very proud of what we did. And I have to say this, Harold, he did a good job of helping these folks. When you turn around and said there was no state funds, it was kind of like, well, what are we doing here then? What do we do? They were looking for something to regulate and then couldn't figure out, they weren't offering a carrot. So it was kind of, and when you took a look at the city of Burlington's presentation and Diener, and then juxtaposition that against the folks that came back of the Duke Power, it was, the term that comes to mind is that they looked paid. They looked like they were professional lobbyists there compared to the city of Burlington staff being so transparent. So I was proud of you. I think y'all did an absolutely wonderful job, and thank you.
Absolutely. Congratulations.
And Bob was involved greatly in this. What we found, like Michael Lane, is so much of what I think benefits the staff now, incorrectly, is the Jordan Lake issues where, and you all were involved. Bob was there as attorney then. The time that staff spent in the legislature truly prepares them for these type situations. Bob, and you were there for all those meetings. And actually, the same meeting room where most of the Jordan Lake rule meetings took place, where that was taking place. But the whole Duke Energy issue is another issue totally, which thank goodness we don't have.
Any other questions for staff?
One other thing, tomorrow we'll be back at the legislature, Bob and I, at the Jordan Lake Review Committee. Diener has requested information concerning where we were, where we are in terms of the Jordan Lake rule. I think part of yesterday's presentation that we made a special effort to say is that we are the one community that's about 96% there in terms of putting all the regulations in for Jordan Lake. In my knowledge, Bob, if I'm wrong, I don't know if anybody else started yet.
I believe we're the only entity on the point source, the wastewater plant end of things that have instituted the upgrades and gone to this extent. Greensboro's done the engineering studies and design, but they have not started on construction yet.
Was that good or bad?
That is outstanding, Mayor. I'm telling you, after what we found.
I understand 96% is outstanding.
No, I'm telling you, this is going to occur. When you start discharging into public rivers, what's happened, especially with Duke Energy, I can assure you, this is going to occur now.
Okay.
They've gotten major attention.
So we're way ahead of the game.
No matter what side
Yes.
of the aisle you're on, it's now hypersensitive.
That's right.
And we're going to be so thankful that we're as far along as we are, and that we've dotted our I's and crossed our T's, and we fought the rules, but then we played by the rules.
That's right.
And it's going to play to our advantage.
And just to summarize, how much money have we spent so far in getting to that 96% program recognized?
For the three plant projects, the filter project at the south plant and the nutrient upgrades at both the south and the east plant, between construction, design, contract administration, it's right around $26.1 million.
Okay. And then yesterday's hearing, 35 million that you talked about.
Well, that would be at 26.1 million, then the replacement of the pipe, the line, the pressurized line leading from the pump station to the plant where the break was. We've got, actually got some, we addressed that issue and realized that when we found that it was laid on stone, we decided instead of just trying to repair that, we didn't feel comfortable that that's going to be replaced. That'd be a budget amendment coming out with the existing contract and work money left in the plants, I believe, to do that. And the other part of that is something that, if you remember in Bob and Michael's map, the Hall River Interceptor line, which is the big line running along the Hall River that basically collects from all the collector lines for most of East Burlington, for Elon.
Part of Elon, part of Gibsonville flow into that.
All flows in. That's the line that leads down to the pump station that brings the wastewater product to the plant itself.
Is that also a 1959 installed pipe?
Probably about that 1959, 1960, because the plant was put into service in either 59 or 60, and that was the plant line feeding the plant.
That was part of the capital improvement efforts that would begin to take place next year. We're doing the Little Alamance Creek line this year for lining of it, but we have got one portion of that already designed, and bids would probably go out and make and start working.
We had it designed in 2009 when there was the stimulus effort, and we tried to get funding for it, but it didn't qualify at that time. So we have our consultant going back to look at the environmental permitting, make sure that's still in effect, or if we need to do any more. We're shooting to have that hopefully bid either late spring or right around the beginning of the new budget year.
The irony is why it did not need stimulus money, because there had been no problems with it.
Any other questions for staff? Thank you. Good luck tomorrow. Brings us to public comments, period. First would be Ms. Crawford, Kim Crawford. Topic, transportation.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, I'm here, and I know that you've heard quite a bit numbers regarding public transit, bus transportation, and I could throw numbers at you as well. But really, from the perspective of the shelter and the people that we serve, the people that Allied Churches serves are low and no income people. So what I'd really like to do is just tell you about Barry. And Barry is one of many people that come through Allied Churches. Last year we served about 655 different people. And Barry is a kid about 25 years old. And he came to the shelter. He has mental disabilities. He's been staying with his father his whole life. His dad got a power of attorney to take care of him in case something should happen to him. During this time, Barry got a job at Target, and he's been working there ever since. A few years ago, Barry's dad died. The power of attorney sold the house, and Barry had no place to go. Now, Barry was in his 20s, and the power of attorney gave him about $20,000. And so what did Barry do? Okay, how many of us remember what we would do with $20,000 in our pocket? And he did what most kids would do, especially one with mental disabilities. He spent all of the money. And he found that he had no place to go. Now, during this whole period of turmoil, he maintained his job at Target. And then he walked in our doors at Allied Churches. Now, how many of you know where Allied Churches is? And how many of you know where Target is? Target is 6 miles from Allied Churches. And that kid worked 5 days a week. And he worked from 3 in the morning until noon. Every day. And he got up at 1 o'clock in the morning and walked. And then he walked back every day. And that's the problem that the people at Allied Churches have. You know, they come in, and we as a community expect them to get jobs, get homes, and, you know, pull themselves up by their bootstraps and take care of their lives. But the issue that they have is they can't get there. They want to participate in our society. They want to be positive contributing members to our community. But what we have to understand is they need affordable housing and they need jobs in order for them to do that. The reality in our community today is the affordable housing is over here and the jobs are over here. And they have to be able to get there. And that's the issue that many of our community members are facing, especially when the jobs that are over here are paying something less than a livable wage. And transportation becomes a huge, huge bite out of someone that's making $9 an hour. I can remember when Chris came to me, because we do expect our shelter residents to look for jobs and look for housing. And I remember when Chris came to me, and he sat down, sheer joy in his face, when he said, I got a job. I got a job. You'll let me stay a little bit longer so I can get my feet underneath me. Of course, of course. Where are you working, Chris? I'm working at McDonald's. How are you going to get there? I'm going to walk, Miss Kim, I'm going to walk. And that's what our shelter residents do, is they walk. And you know what? I live 6 miles from Allied Churches. And God forbid I'd have to walk to work. I would work from home before I would drive to work. And I know that there are many, many cost analysis that is going back and forth. But at the end of the day, I believe that our community does have a responsibility for those that have less, for our more vulnerable neighbors. And I think that there comes a point where we really have to take that into account. Because Barry and Chris, they want more than anything to participate in this community, if they could only get there. So I'm asking you that when you do get to that point where you vote, that you remember Chris, and you remember Barry, and you remember the literally hundreds of people that are coming in and out of Allied Churches seeking help and wanting to contribute to our community, that you remember them when you think about your vote. Thank you very much.
Ms. Crawford. Next is Maureen Richmond. Her topic is economic opportunity. Welcome, Ms. Richmond.
Thank you. Mayor Wall, City Council members, thank you very much for this opportunity. My first order of business tonight is to also thank you for all the things that are right about Burlington and all the efforts that you make year-round to make sure that services operate properly for everybody. And we have a wonderful sanitation and recycling program. And thank you also for whatever you did to make the snow go away on the streets. You did a great job. But my feelings tonight are in line with those you just heard from Kim Crawford. And as a matter of fact, we were both panelists just recently at the community forum that the Times News and Elon University co-sponsored. I'm sure you heard about it on January the 27th. And the topic was poverty. And within that topic, I'm sure we were supposed to understand it as poverty and the alleviation of it. You know, what we can do about it. I don't know who amongst you might have been there that evening or maybe watched the YouTube a little bit later on, but briefly I want to say the problem of poverty in Alamance County, well, in the nation and also specifically in Alamance County, was admirably analyzed by numerous scholarly and authoritative people in our community. So they did a great job of laying out just exactly who is affected, how they've been affected, why they've been affected, what that results in. And what the bottom line that we heard about is that the amount of poverty that we have in our county, in our city, is part of what is disabling the economy. It's part of what's keeping the flow of money from prospering everybody. So we all have a tremendous benefit to realize or reason to pursue the full engagement of those unemployed that are in the impoverished condition. Whether they're at Allied Churches or whether they're living in poorly maintained housing in other parts of the city, East Burlington, or where have you, all want to participate, as Kim was talking about, most certainly want to participate. Though we all know that the real issue is lack of jobs. That's what it is. So my point that I bring to you tonight is, although I know you have probably looked at every option that exists in attempting to bring economic vitalization to our city and to our county, in absence of a public transport system, or until we get one, how about, I would say, considering the notion of developing small business areas right in the areas of greatest economic need. In other words, so that people can get there either on foot or bicycle comfortably without having to go 6 miles. So that would mean creating a new vision of how a city might work together, maybe more in terms of small areas of concentrated activity where services and residences would be integrated workably for the individuals and for the families there. So I know you've probably thought about that, but what's the one thing that would help people in our situation, in our county, in our city that need jobs? Well, employment, money that comes from employment. And if we can't arrange for corporations to come in and provide those jobs for one reason or another, how about if we consider jump-starting our economy through self-employment and entrepreneurialism? If we take that approach, then we find out that one common missing factor is access to capital to get started. So what I'm going to ask of you tonight is that you just do a Google search on microfinance and micro-lending, the whole notion of what it takes to put small business people into business close to their homes, delivering services that could be used right there in that neighborhood. I understand that the limitations on what you can do and make happen in the city are very real, and you've spoken about those in former meetings, but I also know that your intellectual capital is more than equal to the challenge here, so I put it to you, and that is all I have to say. Maureen Richmond, 2040 Martin Street, 27217 here in Burlington. Thank you.
Brings us to city council comments.
Mayor, I have a brief comment. It's been mentioned before, but I would like to thank, the city staff who's involved with the snow removal cleanup. As usual, did an outstanding job. A lot of systems I know appreciate it, they may not have said, but I want to add my comment. It's just a great job. Thank all of you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. We have a comment.
So nice, Mayor. I got my hard hat and my vest out, and they wouldn't let me drive with heavy equipment, so I still thank you for what you've done anyway.
And our insurance rates reflected.
That's why I didn't drive.
Any other comment? Couple of comments. Free bulk waste collection, March 3rd through May 2nd. The next city council work session will be held March 3rd at 5 p.m. City council meeting will be held March 4th at 7 p.m. Just a quick update on the sign removal. We have removed 1,241 at this time. Congratulations to staff. It looks a heck of a lot better. We appreciate it. Just continue our efforts. Also, I received a letter from David and Biddy Pinson in reference to a broken water and sewer line along Saddle Club Road. They were very thankful for the hard work of our staff, and also mentioned Andy McCoy for keeping them informed throughout the entire process of what took place over on Saddle Club. So if you could get the information to that group, we'd greatly appreciate it, and a job well done. Also, we'd like to say congratulations to Mr. Owen in reference to his new grandson, Jacob Owen Beck. Hopefully son and daughter all are doing well.
Son-in-law.
So, well, yes, grandson.
Yeah.
And
Grandsons
daughter.
are, yeah. Not sleeping much, but that's part of the deal.
Congratulations. Also, I'd like to recognize this young lady in the back. She has been very patient tonight, and we appreciate you being here tonight, the whole entire meeting, and never getting too wiggly. And not sure of the purpose, but thank you for being here tonight. Thanks. We'll see you again. I'll take a motion to adjourn.